This is the brand new Abarth 600E, the most powerful Abarth ever produced. But unlike Abarths of previous years, this 280 horsepower hot hatch is now fully electric. So in this video, I'm going to be finding out if this top of the range Scorpionissima example still has a sting in its tail and whether this EV take on a hot hatch is as good as it sounds. I'm John and you're watching Johnny Gets Cash. Let's start by taking a look at the outside of this Abarth 600E Scorpionissima, because finished in this awesome shade of hypnotic purple, this is certainly no shrinking violet. From the 20-inch diamond cut alloy wheels to the in-your-face body kit, this thing blends two major themes. On one hand, the design gives a nod to the Abarth 850 TC from the early days of Abarth with its aggressive stance and squared off bumpers, but at the same time gives a firm nod to modern trends with its geometric bumper infills and digitally inspired graphics. You will also notice that the electrified Scorpion logo features heavily in the design of the 600E, giving a constant reminder that this is no ordinary electric vehicle. The 600E is available in two versions, the standard 600E with 240 horsepower, or the Scorpionissima limited edition, which is packing 280 horsepower. The Scorpionissima is limited to just 1,949 units in recognition of the founding year of Abarth, 1949. This hotter Scorpionissima version of the 600E is offered in two colours, hypnotic purple as seen here and acid green, both colour names referencing the sting of a scorpion. Abarth have gone to great lengths to not only make this a great car to look at, but a great car to enjoy. Take for example this front bumper. The designers have stretched and lengthened the profile of the car, creating this shark nose silhouette. Now that not only looks more aggressive, but it also improves aerodynamic efficiency. The 20-inch alloys have been designed once again to pick up the design language of the Scorpion. In this case, the webs are designed to not only look like the stinger of a Scorpion, but they're designed to show off the painted 4-piston calipers which hug a 380mm vented disc. Inside, Abarth have absolutely nailed what I can only assume was a brief of sportiness meets quality. Let's start by taking a look at these absolutely epic looking seats. Exclusive to the Scorpionissima, these Alcantara-clad big bucket seats wouldn't look out of place in a Lamborghini. With 4 different types of foam, they are designed to give the most comfortable ride possible. They're also heated and electronically adjustable. Next up, the Alcantara steering wheel. This thing not only looks legit, but it feels perfect in the hand. Not too small, but still nice and nimble and easy to get feedback through. You'll also notice the electrified Scorpion logo features here too. The interior of the 600E feels somewhat moody with dark pillars and headlining, but I think that kind of suits the vibe of the car. But dashes of bright green throughout the cab do help to keep things vibrant. The Scorpionissima exclusively features this folding tunnel pad cover, which I can only liken to the sort of mechanism and material that you'd find on an iPad cover. A sensible solution and in keeping with the high performance tech vibe of the car. Although the 600E is mainly about performance, don't think that Abarth have completely overlooked practicality. This is of course a 4-door hatchback, meaning it will comfortably carry 5 adults and a boot full of shopping. Don't get me wrong, we're not talking about Rolls-Royce levels of rear passenger comfort here, but those sporty Sabelt seats do have a cutout on their rear shell, meaning that your rear seat passengers won't be knocking knees. The boot space is respectable for a hatchback of this size, easily offering enough space for a week's shopping or even a couple of suitcases. So we've seen that Abarth have taken things seriously as far as the design and the level of fit and finish is concerned, but this is exactly that. It's an Abarth, a brand synonymous with performance and fruity sounding exhausts. So can this electric offering live up to the heritage of the brand? There's only one way to find out, so let's take it for a drive and see what it's all about. So, being the Scorpionissima version of the 600E, this car offers 280 horsepower and 345 Newton meters of torque. It also offers a 0 to 60 time of 5.85 seconds. Now, I've actually tested that on a private road, of course. As part of the infotainment system, you've got a racing section. Now, that allows you to do timed 0 to 60 runs. Now, although the official stated 0 to 60 is 5.85 seconds, the car, I've done this twice, the car both times showed me 5.5 seconds 0 to 60, which I thought was pretty impressive. The top speed is limited to 124 miles an hour. There are three different driving modes to choose from. First of all, you have Turismo mode, which unlocks 198 horsepower and 300 newton meters of torque with a limited top speed of 93 miles per hour. The accelerator pedal is in sport mode, as are the steering and ESP maps. Next is Scorpion Street mode, which gives 228 horsepower and the full 345 newton meters of torque, along with a limited top speed of 112 miles per hour. The accelerator pedal, steering and ESP all remain in sport mode. Finally, you have Scorpion Track mode, which gives you the full 280 horsepower, 345 newton meters of torque experience. Combined with the maximum limited top speed of 124 miles an hour, the throttle pedal becomes instantly more aggressive and responsive, while steering calibration goes into Sport Plus mode, and ESP calibration enters what Abarth call Fun mode, giving you a much more raw driving experience with a lot less hand-holding from the car's driver aids. Naturally though, battery life takes a little bit more of a hammering when you're in either Scorpion Street or Scorpion Track mode. On that subject, the official stated battery range of the 600E with a fully charged battery is 207 miles, but as always, this is sort of a perfect world scenario stated figure. In order to thoroughly understand what kind of range was realistically achievable, prior to filming this review, I actually used the 600E to go on a 200-mile round trip, which was 80% motorway driving and probably 20% town and village work. I thought a fairly typical use example which would give me a proper idea in the real world of what sort of range is actually achievable. So based on that experiment, I have to say that I averaged less than the 207 miles quoted range. In fact, after just 124 miles, my fully charged battery was showing just 28% remaining, meaning that instead of the quoted 2.07 miles per percentage of charge, I actually saw 1.7 miles per percentage of charge, which would theoretically show a total range of 170 miles total. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't me complaining or saying that the stated figures aren't legit. After all, I was conducting a real world test, meaning that I was driving the car sensibly. I was avoiding hard acceleration. I did have the aircon on its minimum blower setting for a small portion of the journey, and I was using the radio. So it was very much a real world test, but I did have it in the lowest power Turismo mode, and as mentioned, I wasn't pushing the car hard. So I was treating it as I imagine most generic consumers would. I was trying to give it as fair of a test as possible, and those are the figures I saw. With the practical stuff out of the way, let's talk about what makes this electric vehicle a hot hatch rather than just a microwave on wheels: the driving experience. So I'm willing to admit to being much more of a petrol head than I am into electric vehicles. To me, electric vehicles have always seemed like the sort of thing bought by people who want to go from A to B and they don't really care how they do it. It's not something that sort of sets your soul on fire, and as such I've never got that excited about any electric vehicle. To me, they always seem like an accessory, something like an iPhone or something like that. But now that manufacturers the likes of Abarth are starting to pay attention to the genre, and they're starting to create things just like this Scorpionissima, I think that bodes well. I think potentially we could be seeing the start of some really exciting EV vehicles. This 600E feels every inch the hot hatch. From its firm suspension, its aggressive stance, the in-your-face styling, it all screams performance. And it's here that an electric vehicle such as this can play its trump card: instantaneous torque. When in Scorpion Street, or especially in Scorpion Track mode, the 600E delivers a fistful of torque, which equates to the sort of acceleration that you'd be happy to see from a supercar 10 or 15 years ago. It's this marriage of instantaneous torque and a well set up chassis that Abarth have managed to create, which make the 600E not just another electric vehicle, but an electric hot hatch. So there's one fight that any electric vehicle has to put up with, especially if it's wearing an Abarth badge, and that is the sound. Abarths are famed for their fruity exhaust notes, so what is this all-electric example of an Abarth going to do to be a member of the pack? Well, Abarth have gone to some length to make sure the 600E Scorpionissima lives up to the brand. And they have included an electronic sound generator in this car, which is switchable on or off from the car's infotainment system. Now, you could argue if you're into exhaust sounds, it's never going to be as good as the real thing, but I would counter-argue that it's better than nothing. In actual fact, Abarth have gone to some lengths to make the sound generator sound as legit as possible. This means that the exhaust sound gets louder during sportier driving, but it also fades out from 50 miles an hour upwards at constant throttle, i.e. motorway work. This avoids it getting drony and annoying. To show you what I mean, I'm going to turn on the car's sound generator now. So I've pulled over, at the moment, no sound generator. If I flick this switch, you may be able to hear through my microphone, a slight burble has started. If I give it a few revs, that's the sound from inside. But if we pull off and carry on with our drive, you may notice that that sound becomes deeper and throatier with some spirited driving. So I'm going to try and demonstrate that. Now, it will be difficult to get to come through these microphones because obviously they're designed to focus on my voice, but hopefully you'll get a bit of a feel for it. I'm also going to put the car back in Scorpion Street mode. I was driving in Turismo, but now I'm in Scorpion Street. So that exhaust tone should again become slightly more throaty. So, as I push the car through these B roads in Scorpion Street mode, I'm getting some feedback through that exhaust sound, so I'm getting audible feedback. Now, this is what's unusual. You'd think a speaker in an electric car would be kind of an on or off thing, but as I said, Abarth have gone to some lengths to make this more legit than just an electronic speaker in the back of the car. As you push this car hard, and at varying speeds and acceleration, that exhaust note changes, which I think is actually really cool, and definitely, as I said before, better than nothing. Okay, here's a perfect use case. I've got that sound generator on at the moment, and I'm coming up to a horse rider on the road. All I have to do is turn the sound generator off, and I will be able to go past this horse in complete silence and hopefully avoid spooking it or the rider. Horse successfully passed. I can put the sound generator back on and carry on with my B-road bashing. And that brings me back to a point I raised earlier when we were talking about the practicalities of the car and the range I'd seen. I talked about a journey I did, which was 200-mile round trip, and there's a bit of motorway work and a bit of town driving. You could argue in the Abarth's favour, this car isn't designed for long motorway journeys. If you want to do that, buy something else. But this is an electric hot hatch. It's designed to be fun, you know, something you actually get in and enjoy driving. And hitting these B roads, it really reminds me of what this car and its whole ethos is about. It shouldn't be just about the range. I'll admit, I'll be the first to admit, because I'm not a big fan of electric vehicles, I find the whole process of charging them and waiting for them to charge, or finding a charger sometimes, I find that undermines any electric vehicle. So sadly, when we talk about electric hot vehicles like this, the car is fantastic, and I can't really fault the car, but it isn't, in my opinion, there yet. The charging network, the infrastructure, is not there yet for cars like this. Maybe one day when we have much faster ways of charging these cars, and a lot more conveniently, then I think things will really take off. But certainly for now, I can't help but feel that any electric vehicle, that's a big fight it's going to have to come up against. And when we're talking about an EV hot hatch like this, it's always going to be a millstone around its neck. But with that being said, I'm now going to enjoy my drive back to the yard in Scorpion Street mode and make the most of this incredibly fun little EV hot hatch. Just on a side note, with that sound generator running, and when I was pulling out of a junction there, I had to pull out a little bit faster than maybe you otherwise would. The noise it makes, it kind of reminds me of the Jetsons, and the acceleration that this car delivers, I feel like I'm in a little spaceship, to be honest. It sort of hums along. So that is the Abarth 600E Scorpionissima. But what will this slice of EV hot hatch cost you? Well, Abarth have boxed very clever to get both the 600E and this 600E Scorpionissima below the £40,000 mark, meaning that they avoid the expensive car supplement, which, in case you're unaware, means that cars priced above £40,000 when they are new are subject to an additional tax cost of £410 a year for the first 5 years of a car's life. So to pitch these cars below the £40,000 mark is a very, very sensible move. The standard 600E is priced at £36,975 on the road. This, however, limited edition Scorpionissima 280 horsepower full fat version will cost you £39,875 on the road. To summarise, the 600E Scorpionissima is a fantastic vehicle, there's no doubt about it. The level of fit and finish, the styling, the whole in-your-faceness of the car. Honestly, it's quite refreshing to see in a marketplace filled with black and white generic EV boxes. What Abarth have set out to do here is make electric vehicles hot, and I think they very nearly cracked it. But sadly, what lets the whole concept down is not the car itself, but the infrastructure that it relies on. Abarth have undoubtedly picked up the bar and raised it for what a hot EV should be, but in a world where range is realistically sub 200 miles and charging can take anything from half an hour to several hours depending on which charger you're on, if you're lucky enough to find a charger in the first place, can an electric vehicle ever truly be cool? I'm not sure, because when I think of what's cool, it's not sitting at a motorway services for hours waiting for your car to recharge. But maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you think down in the comments. You have been watching Johnny Gets Cash. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you're subscribed with your notifications turned on. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Cheers.